Do you feel encouraged being in these dating streets?
I feel more encouraged now, again, because of therapy, and I have a more grace with myself and also with other people, and going into relationships and dating with healthier boundaries and expectations. So I think what was messing me up as a single woman before was that I would have unrealistic expectations about the men that were pursuing me. I'll give you an example, and you may be able to appreciate this as a director. So there would be a man pursuing me, and I would, if he checked the boxes, I would automatically start auditioning him for the leading man in my life. The problem is that a lot of these men were showing up satisfied to be extras. They didn't want the responsibility.
Y'all let that settle. Y'all let that settle. That touched somebody's spirit right there. They felt a breakthrough right there in that moment. I felt the release all over this place. You said you were auditioning them to be the leading man, but they were just showing up to be extras.
Yep.
I had a vision to take the Dear Future Wifey podcast on the road. You ask, we're delivering. I'm traveling to your cities to curate healing conversations across the globe. I'm Lateris R. Whitfield, and this is Dear Future Wifey on tour.
I'm Lateris R. Whitfield, the host of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. Now listen, how many of y'all are subscribed to the Dear Future Wifey podcast? Raise your hand. All right, good. Those that didn't, I want you to go to YouTube right now and go ahead and subscribe. Listen, it's an honor to be at Concord Church where we grow people. Man, I love the mantra, the slogan for the church. Love is a complex emotion that can manifest itself from a wide range, from laughter to tears, from celebration to sorrow, from sanity to insanity. You know, we've all been there before, haven't we? We've all maybe read the Song of Solomon, chapter 8, where it reads, I would give you spiced wine to drink, the nectar of my pomegranates. His left arm is under my head and the right arm embraces me. Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. Today's episode is titled, Unlocking Love. We're gonna jump right on into it. Let's go ahead and start with some of the brethren, since a lot of these women feel like we may be a part of the problem while they still remain single. So we're gonna go ahead and start with you, old Shaine. Shaine, how old are you?
24.
24?
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, we're gonna allow everybody to introduce yourself from the back all the way, come from the back to the front, and then we'll start from the back into the front here.
Got you. Shaine Hailey, born and raised in Dallas, Texas. Concord is home to me. Just graduated a year and a half ago from SMU with my master's in management. Now I'm working in, thank you.
Yeah. Good.
Now I'm working in Dallas doing real estate development. I also have a podcast called Crash Couch Podcast. Also have a nonprofit called the Taunt Collective, where we are a volunteer hub. Just focusing on making sure we bring opportunities to people that love the community and love doing what they are called to do. So, Shaine Hailey, thank you.
Thank you, Shaine. Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Concord. My name is Jaren Collins. I'm born and raised Tulsa, Oklahoma. Proud fiance of Kristen Wells Lewis. Business owner, JCI Creative. Check me out.
Hold on. I want to clap right there because you done chose somebody. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There you go. Hey, boo.
Where's she at?
She right over
stand
there.
Up. Stand up.
Go ahead, stand up.
Stand up. Let the Lord use you. There it is.
There we go.
Amen.
What Pastor always say, sugar in my coffee. You know how they do. But yeah, proud owner of JCI Creatives. I've been a member here at Concord for about 8 years, and so we growing people. Good. Here.
My name is Andrea Powell. I am 40. I am divorced, and I have been a member of Concord since 2009.
My name is...
Yeah, good.
My name is Summer Galvez. I've been a member of Concord for about 12 years now. I have my own marketing agency. Concord has been a faithful supporter and client of SGCA, so I'm truly grateful to be here.
Good, welcome.
Good morning, Concord family. My name is Christopher Lewis. I've been a member of Concord since 2014. I'm a Dallas native, Oak Cliff, Texas. This is my beautiful wife, Lauren Lewis, my beautiful black queen. We married for 5 years. I am the Chief Operations and Housing Development Officer for Builders of Hope, CDC, where we build affordable housing throughout the city of Dallas as well as Dallas County.
Good, good. Welcome.
All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Lauren Lewis. I am married to Chris, and I am a Dallas native as well, and I've been a member of Concord for 10 years.
Good, good. 10 years. I don't think they know who you are, Mel. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to go first. Oh, hey. So my name is Stephanie Carter. I'm 49 years old, and I have 3 kids. Oh, and I'm married to the pastor of the church.
Bryan Carter, 48, and been to Concord the last 22 years.
Senior pastor.
25? 25 years.
25. 25.
You said how old you were? You are.
So here we go, Shaine. Let's get back to you. So Shaine, are you single?
Yes.
How long have you been single?
My whole life.
Your whole life. You've been single your whole life, Shaine. So Shaine, when's the last time you've been in a serious relationship?
Never.
Never. You have never been in a serious relationship. Why?
I've never been in a serious relationship leading towards marriage. That's what I consider a serious relationship. I think a lot of my relationships were in college and in high school, so I really just wasn't locked in as I should be and as I wanted to be.
Well, do you think you should be locked in a relationship at that young age?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Yeah,
so all right.
That's not good, yeah.
All right, so let me ask you, do you desire to get married?
For sure, 100%.
So when you think about marriage and you think about when you will be willing to make that decision or you feel like God will lead you in that direction, is there an age that you feel like you'll cross that threshold where you'll start desiring marriage?
I don't think it's an age. I think it's like a maturity level and also a financial level, going into a marriage where have a lot of savings and making sure that I'm in the right investments and things like that, but also going into it just focused on not myself, but being able to open myself up to somebody emotionally, spiritually, and physically as well.
All right. So you said based on maturity, do you feel like you are mature enough to take on a bride right now?
No.
Why not?
Really, like I just said, financials.
No, take finances out.
Oh, okay.
Because see, men always lead to finances when it comes to marriage. And it's a logical thing. I'm proud of men who actually feel as though that you have to have things in order because they don't want you struggling with them. But, and it's a very logical thing. When I got married, I was 28 years old, and I remember the woman that I was dating, I said, I want to make sure that I will provide you what's called the soft life now. I said, you would choose whether or not you want to work, but I want to provide the finances where you could have that choice whether you want to work or not. I don't know why I thought that, but don't know why. But you said you keep leaning towards finances. Let me ask you, why is finances so important for you?
I just think it creates a stable household. It allows for people to kind of open themselves up more than just always. I think a part of it is really the rat race that we're always in, where we're continuing to have to pay bills and have to do this and have to do that. And I think having to alleviate that and be kind of just secure in your finances allows for you to just grow in other places.
You know, I wonder this. You hear a lot of women talk about being a multiplier. A woman can come into your life and you have $5 and she can turn to $50,000. And sometimes I think we, you know, in today's age of thinking, we put finances way up high, where when our grandparents got married, they didn't have nothing but 2 wooden nickels to rub together. And they got together and they built together. So I wonder if we're missing something where we say we got to go chase this money, because what happened to me, Shaine, is that I got married with the ideology of I'm going to provide these finances, but then when I hit a rough spot in my marriage, I no longer felt like I deserved to be married. When I had to file bankruptcy, I said, well, if my finances aren't there, I don't need a wife anymore. And so I started psychologically self-sabotaging my marriage because I built my marriage on something that wasn't sustainable. And then I remember my ex-wife telling me, she was like, you built all this for you. I don't need all this. I had bought a condo downtown Dallas. I was doing very well for myself, touring shows across the country. But when the finances changed, I felt like I could no longer be committed to my marriage. So I just want to challenge you with that thought. Definitely be sure to, of course, get your money in order or whatnot, but don't make money the God of your marriage. Does that make sense? Let's go ahead and jump over here to Andrea. So you've been married, you're divorced. How long have you been divorced?
I've been divorced for 9 years.
If you don't mind me asking, what led to your divorce? You know I'm nosy, I'm gonna ask questions, so that just is what it is.
It was important to provide an emotionally safe environment for my son, and that's not what was occurring. And I was primarily reared by my father, and he told me and showed me my worth, and I wasn't feeling that, and it was important that I was able to feel that.
Did you try counseling and therapy before you decided to, I take it you filed for divorce?
I filed for divorce.
The statistics show that 85% of divorces are filed by women. And so did you at least try counseling or therapy or anything like that to help save your marriage?
Tried counseling, tried therapy, and we were also members of the marriage ministry at that time too. But it takes two in a marriage, and I felt like I was on a hamster wheel. I was doing all the work, and he was just chilling. And I was like, it looked real nice to chill over there, so let me chill too. And, you know, that was that.
So do you want to be married again?
I do.
Why?
I want my son to be able to see what it's like for a man to love his mom. And I also want him to see what it's like
right there. They want to clap. You said to love his son. You want your son to see what it looks like for a man to love his mom.
Yes, and I also want him to see what it's like for a woman to love a man, because he's going to be a husband one day.
Yes.
He's going to be a father one day. And this isn't just about me right now. It's about him and the legacy that we're leaving. It doesn't stop with me. I want more for him.
What I find very disheartening is that we haven't seen enough examples of what healthy love looks like. A lot of us are growing up in broken families and broken homes. We haven't gotten a chance to see what it looks like for a man to love a woman and vice versa. And so we take on these vows, getting married to these beautiful women or getting married to these awesome men, but we don't have reference on how to love properly. And so we end up trauma bonding before we actually love from a healthy perspective. Whew, Jesus. So how's these dating streets been treating you, Andrea?
Real interesting.
When you say real interesting, how? Unpack that.
I came into the dating scene at 31 with a child. I met my ex-husband freshman year of college, and so that was it. And so when I came out here, it was real different. You know, dating looked different. Everything is on the internet. People aren't really very serious. It's a lot of games. It's a lot of playing out here, and I'm not for games. I have a purpose.
So answer this. You said you dating at 19 in college looks different from you dating you said when you got a divorce at 31?
Yes, sir.
What was so different? You said people were playing games. You would think that at that young age, it was a whole lot of games being played. So what was so different?
So first of all, I was 19. And 19, yeah, we were just having fun.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so, a lot of fun in college. And I came out of a marriage seeing things differently, seeing life differently, with more purpose. And not everybody sees life with purpose at that age, I think, too.
Before I let you go, purpose. You said you see life at purpose. What purpose are you talking about? Purpose in regards to loving and sharing and giving grace to other people in life. Giving grace to other people. See, I like when we talk about stuff like this. What does grace look like? Grace looks like giving more chances. Like, it's okay to make a mistake, as long as within your heart you understand that, and you're asking for forgiveness. There's someone that I listen to that says there's grace for those who seek it, and someone has to seek grace in order for you to give grace.
Because you can make the same mistake over and over again.
100%. How many of y'all like the scripture where it says, Jesus, how many times should I forgive a brother who sins against me? 7 times? He said, no, 70 times 7. How many of y'all like that scripture? How many of y'all don't like that? You don't like that too much? Y'all don't like that? It's interesting because we have the least patience for those that we have joined in covenant. You know, you have more patience with your friends. You have a lot of patience with your kids. How many of y'all children have taught you what patience look like, what long suffering looks like? Come on, somebody. But we don't have that level of long suffering, that level of patience with the people who we said vows to. We say these beautiful vows for richer or for poor, for better or for worse, through sickness and in health. To death do we part. But the minute that those lights get cut off, you say, oh, that's it. I can do bad all by myself now. I ain't never had my lights cut off, and I done married you, and now I'm in the dark. This ain't God. I don't feel the anointing in my household no more. This can't be the Holy Spirit. It can't be. And so what's so crazy about it is that I watched my parents suffer through things that a lot of people just don't have that steadfast, unmovable faith for. And so I want to go ahead and go to one of our married couples. Let's go ahead and talk Lewis. We're going to talk to Lewises. Chris and Lauren, what are some obstacles? Let me say, what was the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome as a married couple?
First was that, when I came into this relationship with my wife, when we were dating, I had a daughter already from a previous, relationship. So, and I was a primary parent. So not only being a black man and being a black father with a black little girl, so that was very interesting. So I had to, figure out, hey, we're a package deal, you know what I mean? I'm still working on myself, how can we make this thing work? So.
Well, how old were you at that time?
I was 28. 29.
29 years old, single father.
Single father.
All right. And you said, so what was the challenges in dating? When you were dating women, did they find that as a repellent, or did they find that like, oh, that's so cute, that's nice?
Oh yeah, it was that, oh yeah, that's so cute, oh my God, what's your name? Can I pick her up? Like, nah, well, slow it down. But the biggest thing is like when we started dating, when I felt comfortable around her, like they instantly, like, I felt like she was her mom, and that was the biggest thing with me, they just had compatibility because I'm really big on family.
Let me ask you this is good because a lot of people may be single parents out there. When did you feel was a good time to introduce your child to her?
I'm gonna jump in.
Jump on in,
Lauren. He
Lauren.
brought her on our first date.
He brought on the first date?
He did, because, I met him the night before, and I asked him to go with me to Clyde Warren Park the next night. And he said, oh, I'd love to go. And when he showed up, there was a cute little girl in the back seat. And I was like, oh, okay. And he forgot he had a conference call too, y'all. So on our first outing together, we won't call it a date, it was an outing. He took a conference call and stuck me with a 4-year-old. And so...
I was testing her.
You tested her.
So I don't know why I went back out. No.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful person, so that's why I went back out. But yeah,
how did you take that? Because were you open? Have you ever thought about dating a guy that had kids?
No, before then, that was one of the things I said I was not going to do.
Right.
To date somebody with a child.
And on the first date, he just brings her with him.
Yeah.
And leaves you with him.
Yeah, because when I opened the car door, she said, hi, do you like my uniform? And it's like, oh, whoa, okay, so full form right here. But, she was so sweet and, they can't do anything for themselves. So it's like me and her walking through the park, getting food, and he's on this conference call. But she's been delightful since that day that we met. And so it wasn't a problem. And from there, it made me change my thought about why am I going to close myself off to something or somebody just because they bring something that I thought wasn't good enough, but I might be closing myself off from what God has for me. And so that's what made me change my mind.
That's a word for somebody out there. There may be some men out there that say, I don't want to date no woman that don't have kids. You may be preventing yourself from the greatest blessing you'll ever experience.
That word was for me.
That was for you? That was for you, Summer? Summer, you weren't open to dating somebody with kids?
No. I said that I wouldn't date anyone with children and that I didn't want to date someone who was divorced.
Oh, that's good. Let's go ahead there, Summer. So Summer, you said you didn't want to date somebody with kids. Why?
It fell in line with the experiences that I value and wanted to experience with my husband. So I felt like I don't want to come second. You've already gone through the whole pregnancy, doctor's visits, the joy of bringing your first child into the world. And I felt like I'm being cheated of that.
And when it came to divorce, same thing?
Yeah, baggage.
Baggage.
The ability for a woman from your past to have some sort of control over what happens in our relationship, potentially.
See, I hear a lot of y'all agree with that? That's resonating with your spirit right there? You touch and agree with it? Yeah, look at her right there on the green. She said, amen, amen. Some of y'all had some experiences, I see. And so you said, even if the man didn't have kids with his ex-wife, you still believe that it comes with a certain set of baggage?
I used to. I don't feel that anymore. Now that I've matured, I've gone through therapy, I've learned about myself and how...
Hold on, she said the word therapy. How many of y'all believe in therapy? Come on, give God some praise all over this place. Therapy.
Yeah, because the thing is, you can be single and unmarried and not have children and still have baggage.
Right.
So just being divorced or having children or multiple children by multiple people, those things don't necessarily correlate with a deal breaker.
Oh, he said multiple. Hold on. I think people need reference around multiple. Multiple. So you tell me, what if he had 5 kids by 5 different mothers?
You're being ridiculous.
Oh, no, it's not. We in this world. Am I being ridiculous, y'all? No. You met him. You met him. So I'm saying, is there a cutoff? Is it like, okay, you can have 2 kids by 2 different women, or is it 3 kids by 3 different women, or what? I'm
going to pray about it. See what the Holy Spirit says.
Can't get no better than prayer. All right. And so when you think about, do you feel encouraged being in these dating streets?
I feel more encouraged now, again, because of therapy, and I have a more grace with myself and also with other people, and going into relationships and dating with healthier boundaries and expectations. So I think what was messing me up as a single woman before was that I would have unrealistic expectations about the men that were pursuing me. I'll give you an example, and you may be able to appreciate this as a director. So there would be a man pursuing me, and I would, if he checked the boxes, I would automatically start auditioning him for the leading man in my life. The problem is that a lot of these men were showing up satisfied to be extras. They didn't want the responsibility.
Y'all let that settle. Y'all let that settle. That touched somebody's spirit right there. They felt a breakthrough right there in that moment. I felt a release all over this place. You said you were auditioning them to be the leading man, but they were just showing up to be extras.
Yep.
Keep on, unpack that.
Well, and the confusing part about it was these were successful men, high achievers, men who had the characteristics of someone who goes after what they want. And that's attractive to a woman, especially a woman who's a go-getter, like I am. And so I was correlating the fact that you're a go-getter in your professional career, so you're going to apply that. Like, you are too busy to be courting me if you're not serious. So the fact that you're courting me should automatically mean that this is serious, and now I'm looking at you through a different lens when we haven't actually gotten to that point. It was premature.
Whew, that was good. Yeah. I can say so much about that. That is so powerful. One of the things that you said that you touched on that we hear so much in these social media streets is high value man and high value woman. And we relegate high value to their earning income, their net worth, their circle of influence by being around other high value people. But I think we need to reframe and rethink what we call high value. I want us to say high values. You want somebody that have high values instead of just relegating it to finances. You want somebody that has a moral compass, someone that has some integrity. What are you about to say?
I didn't.
You didn't?
No, I said go-getters. They
exactly.
were in their careers. I never put a financial dollar amount or said that they had a lot of money. I'm just saying that they had the ambition level, that they showed that they could be leaders.
I'm not talking about you per se. I'm talking about what we hear on social media is that they'll always talk about going after the high value man, the high value woman, and we've relegated people to a dollar amount, to a number, to some earning potential. And then you have guys that aren't footing the bill on that from a financial standpoint, and then they feel like they don't deserve to be married. And then they become the red pill community that's angry at black women, saying that y'all overlook me all the time, y'all don't want me, and they're willing to show up and give you their all, but you feel like they don't make enough. So I hear it all the time. I talk to a lot of men and I ask them, why aren't you dating with intentionality? Why aren't you dating with intentions? They're like, well, you know, these women, they want this soft life. They want a man that can come into their life and retire them. And they say, based on this economy that we living in, we're gonna need two incomes. Amen. You know. Jesus, Lord. Say amen. Amen. You felt that Shaine? Amen. You don't need two incomes?
45 incomes.
It's hard out here. So the Carters, when you think about, when you hear what's going on in these dating streets and you talk to a lot of singles, Stephanie, you mentor a lot of women, what advice would you have, what advice would you give to single women? These women, before you start, these women have been coming to conferences, they've been laying out on the altar, they've been sowing seeds, they've been investing in all this stuff, they've been believing God is gonna bless them with a husband. They've taken pinky promises when that was a hot thing, and they still aren't married. They meet with their OBGYN at the age of 35, and they told them to freeze their eggs, and they like, wow, has it come to this? And they've been believing God to give them a husband all the way from the age of 25, and now it's 35, now it's 45. What would you say to them, Stephanie?
I would say you still keep believing in him. You still keep trusting him. It's just not your season. But then the other thing that I would say get out in these streets. Hold
on, First Lady. You said get out in these streets.
I would encourage you to get out of the church walls. Believe it or not, there's some women that believe that, you know what, that God is a genie. And I would highly encourage you that you can, yes, I need you to pray. I need you to go to the workshops. I need you to go to the conferences. However, God is not a genie, and it's just not going to magically appear that this man is going to show up. That would be great, but that's not what's going to happen. You can't, when I say get out in these streets, I mean travel. I mean, go to the grocery store, go to the bookstore. That's kind of boring. Listen.
Go to Home Depot.
Home Depot. The best way I can explain it is, I met mine at a Kappa party. I didn't meet him at church. I was in these streets. I was at the party. So, there's nothing wrong with being out in these streets. Y'all, prime example, ladies, a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, what convention was in town?
Alpha.
The Alpha convention. I was literally, all right, brother. I was at lunch with a couple of friends, and you know, they all like start coming in their suits, and they were like, what's going on? I said, it's the Alpha convention. I was like, you need to be at the step show tonight. They got a party tonight. If I was single, I would have been out in these streets. And I met somebody after church, and they were like, yeah, I saw Pastor Carter at the Alpha thing, and I was kind of ashamed. But then I was like, you gave me encouragement when you said to be out in these streets. Y'all, it's nothing wrong with going, like saying hello to a man. Now listen, don't be stalking the man. That's some of y'all, I hate when we have somebody new here, whether they're on staff, be the new hot brother. I need you not to be stalking Shaine, trying to hook your sweet child up with him, but just be chill with it. Be chill with it. But you can still speak and be like, hi Shaine, how are you? But don't be lusting after Shaine, right? I don't need you to be all up on Latera. Just speak, say hello, and be out in these streets. But be careful when you're out in these streets. Now, when I say be out in these streets, I don't mean laying it down in these streets, acting like you married in these streets. When I say be out in these streets, that means just being social, enjoying yourself. There are so many advantages to being single that married people, we'd be like, man, back in the day, oh my goodness. was living my best life. Not that I'm living it now. Anyway, you didn't have to ask for permission. If you got an Amazon package, you're not checking with nobody like that. You're not hiding the Amazon package. But all I'm saying is enjoy your singleness. Enjoy your singleness.
Pastor Carter, what would you say? What would you say to the fellas? What would you say to the men? Because I know you hear a lot. You get a lot of counseling. You sometimes deal with the aftermath of when a woman's heart has been mishandled from a man. What would you say to these brothers?
I would say to the brothers, the Bible says it's a good thing, right? Finding a wife is a good thing. I think for whatever reason, many of us as men have been trained wrong. I mean, it started when we were teenagers. We were all taught to get as much as you can from as many as you can.
Yep.
And I mean, and so it follows you from a teenager into your 20s, into college. So you spend a whole lot of your life just trying to chase women, right? I mean,
hold on, let me ask you this. Did y'all know that men are indoctrinated with that ideology? Okay, all right, amen.
Amen. So what has to happen for most men is at some point the man has to shift, right? He has to shift from this worldly view that a man is defined by his sexuality or defined by the women that he had or defined by his sex. But he has to get to a point in his own maturity in his relationship with the Lord where he understands that's really not really manhood.
Yes.
That's a fake, phony type of manhood.
Yes.
That real manhood requires you to commit to one, right? And to love her and honor her and serve her well. But the challenge is most men are still caught between that tension of still trying to live this life until they find and they get connected to this way of thinking.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's not only him, but his whole crew, right? His whole crew is not there. So sometimes that man has to get to a point in his own maturity. So I would say to most brothers, you gotta really examine your heart and your mind. I would say this too though, sometimes when a man does want to commit, sometimes when a man does reach that maturity level, sometimes women can be so aggressive sometimes. This is what single brothers told me.
Yeah,
they said sometimes women can be so aggressive.
That's what they told you. Right.
They say sometimes it's hard for them to make this transition because they're throwing it at him.
Yep.
Right? And so that
Hold on, stop right there. He said throwing it at him.
I was just trying. That's what he told me.
That's what they told him. That's what they told me. Y'all be throwing it at him, at the single brothers. All right.
That's what they told me.
That's what they told you. Yep.
So you trying to say the sisters in the streets?
Yeah.
Throwing it at them.
Yeah.
You said, you the one, you said. When you outside.
We outside.
I don't mean just laying it down while you're outside. You had to redefine that because, so a man has to get to a point in his maturity where he realizes that marriage is a good thing. That marriage is not about what I'm losing, marriage is about what I'm gaining. It's that at some point, the scriptures talk about the value that is better to marry than to burn. It just talks about that if you got this calling to be single and you can be single and still be pure, go for it. But if you know that you can't live that life, then that tension and that desire that you have is a desire that God is saying to you, I need you to find one person and enjoy the desire that I've put in you with that person.
Yes.
So the tension is that man getting to that point and saying, this is what I got to do. This is what I want. This is what I'm looking forward to, and asking God to send that woman into his life. But every man has to go on that journey.
Yeah.
He has to go on that journey where he gets to that point of maturity where he recognizes that this is what he's got to find that commitment to marriage and find the one that God has sent him. But it's a journey sometimes.
Can I say this?
Go ahead, jump in.
And I heard Shaine mention finances, and I know he's not the only one who feels that way. I feel like in our marriage, if we would have waited until we had our finances together, we never would have got married. I mean, we weren't Pastor and Lady Carter back then. In 98, we graduated from college in May 98, got married in June 98, and we were school teachers. So my school teachers out there, we broke. We broke. And so I'm glad that we did not wait. I'm glad that we did get married and that we did find each other because, it was.
I think it's okay to get married in your 20s. Yeah. I think it's okay to get married in your early 30s. I don't think you got to wait till you 35 and 40 and then
Right.
say, you know what? As a brother, I'm ready to get married now. All this, I think we got to teach men and encourage men that marriage is a good thing and something they ought to pursue just as women pursue it.
And what I believe is lacking is being fathered. A lot of men haven't been fathered, and so we've been conditioned by whether it be social media or music influences us, The Wire, different TV shows, different movies, all this stuff is training us what masculinity looks like. I remember I'm 45 now, so in 2020, I did a vow of abstinence on my podcast in December of 2020. And it was the first time God spoke to me that my body had value. See, we're never programmed that men, while y'all are taking pinky promises, we are... Yeah, we taking different promises. I was gonna play with the pinky and fingers, and we just not gonna talk about that. But that's what we're encouraged to do at that young age. Is we're trying to touch you, we're trying to have sex with you, and y'all are being taught to save yourself. And like Pastor Carter said, we're taught to go have sex with as many women as possible. And that's the disconnect. And that's what causes the trajectory of brokenness. And that's extremely unfortunate. So if we can reverse engineer what we've been taught for men to start discipling other men, for you to be able to talk to your nephews, for you to be able to talk to your sons and tell him the value of his body so that he knows that he lessens his value the more numbers he rack up on the list. You give him a different frame of thought. You teach him what discipline looks like. Because what I found in my own life is because I wasn't disciplined being single, when I got married, that same lack of discipline followed me in my marriage, and I began to step outside of my marriage. Can we really talk right now? And so at some point, God told me, he said, you'll never be faithful to your wife unless you're first faithful to me. He told me that before I got married. I didn't listen. And then I found myself being unfaithful to my wife. God requires us to live a life of discipline. When I talk to you, let me talk to you, Jaren. What made you decide to propose to the woman that you asked to marry?
I think there was a multitude of things, and I'm not going to keep y'all all day. But when it came to Kristen, I just found that for me, I was willing to go further. I was willing to change. I was willing to compromise. I knew that I truly loved her because I was willing to do the work within my own relationship to see myself show up and be ready. And so when it came to our relationship, I just knew it was time to take that next step.
So you tell me in other relationships, you weren't willing to change?
Nah.
Why not? Why didn't you have the same ideology before you met her?
One thing I will say is the great thing about Kristen and I is we both were in therapy individually working on ourselves before we met
there go
each
therapy
other.
again. You said y'all was in therapy.
Yeah. So we both were individually in therapy doing our work to get better for one another, even though we didn't know who we were yet. But I'll say when I was a younger man, I was very selfish. I'm still very selfish. I'm still in therapy working on that. But I think in that time and in that season, it was a sharpening that needed to happen to prepare me for a time such as this.
And so when you met her, how long did it take you to realize that this is the one that I want to say I do to?
Funny story. So when I met Kristen, I actually told her I love her within like the first 2 weeks. But I think...
Hold on. Would that scared the mess out of y'all if some dude said, I love you in the first 2 weeks?
Look, I was comfortable. I was real comfortable. We was on the phone. You know how you get off the phone and you like, oh, okay, I love you too, bye. I was like, oh my God. But really bad. Okay, but I think it showed early on in the way that we moved with one another that I was able to be safe with her. Yes. I was able to be comfortable with her, and that there was a space for me. One thing I always talk about with Kristen and I is alignment. I feel like we found each other at the right time, moving at the right speed, going in the right direction for it to work out for our good.
Oh, that's good. So when you told her you love her, did you also feel like this is a woman that you want to marry? In that 2 week period?
I think in that moment, I knew something was different. So I think I was still getting to that like, oh, this is the woman I'm gonna marry. But I knew like almost instantly, like I asked her out on a Saturday in her living room. We went out the next day and then saw each other or talked to each other every day since. I knew pretty well from the beginning, like this was something different. This is something I want. This is something I desire.
How long did y'all date before you proposed to her?
We dated for, what was it, a year and a half? Hold your hands up, baby.
Was it a year?
I think it was about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
So by you feeling that this was your safe space, why did it take what may be considered so long for you to actually pull the trigger? You said almost 2 years.
Well, that's a great question. You're trying to put me on the spot. I think in reality, two things. I think there was a financial piece, I will admit.
Yeah.
You know, I had to get money for a ring, had to put things together, get things in line. But then also there were some things we did ahead of time. We went to CSI. You know, we started building our lives together and what that's actually gonna look like. And for me, I am at some level a creature of time. So it's like, I wanted to make sure we have time together spending, like, even though I believe that this is something that could be great, I want to walk it out, feel it out a little bit, so we can see, can we really make it on that other side? So I didn't want to rush it, right? But I knew that the potential was there for us to be together forever.
And how did her parents take you?
Her mama loves me. I believe it. Yeah, she loved me. So, hey, Miss Adrian.
So when is the date?
October the 8th, so we 42 days out.
42 days out.
Thank y'all, thank y'all.
When you think about marriage, what are you looking forward to the most?
This is funny. I'm actually looking forward to waking up in the morning and she's still gonna be there. I'm looking forward to the simple things of every day. Like, I think when
Hold on, that's good, hold on. You said the simple things of every day. And that's what it's really about, is the simple things. We try to make relationships so complicated, so complex. He said just waking up and knowing that she's gonna be there every day.
And so one thing, when we were in CSI, we have some great mentors in Alvin and Nita. And one thing Alvin said to us is, people show you marriage for the highlights, but you don't realize 365 days, there are days that there's gonna be nothing that happened. Like, you'll just be living in a space together, just like one-on-one, having conversations, filling time, filling space, because you're gonna be together forever. And so for me, it's like, I think about like what that's gonna be like. And because I know Kristen and I, we can be on the same wavelength, we joke, we kiki and all of that. Like, I know it's gonna be a fun time. Like, when I get up in the morning, there are mornings where she's made breakfast. There are mornings when she told me go get that smoothie, you know? But it's like, I always know I have a friend, a partner in my love relationship.
That is so important. How many married couples do we have out there? Raise your hand, married couples. You know, oftentimes people try to step outside their marriage for the thrill and excitement because their marriage has become boring, you know? And we gotta find a way to just find joy in just existing with each other, just being with each other, being settled with each other, knowing that you don't have to guess where the person is or whether or not they're gonna answer their phone, as a lot of single people are experiencing in these dating streets. You may be dating somebody ghosting. You know, we come up with other terms when you feel like you're going a certain path with somebody and they just disappear. Hopefully I ain't ghosting your wife or your husband, but you know, that'd be a different story. But just existing with each other, doing life together, there's value in that. There's stability in that. There's peace in that, you know? And so I'm glad that your mentors told you to embrace that, because oftentimes we compare ourselves to the reels that we see on Instagram and we say, ooh, I want to be like that person. They doing this TikTok challenge and they're doing this. Why can't we be like that? So you boring. You don't want to do dance videos with me. You're like, I don't dance. I just, my hip bad. I was in the war and I just can't do it. And you're like, see, I just, No, and enjoy each other for what each other are able to offer to the relationship. And so let's talk back to y'all. Have y'all found any moments? They talk about, y'all been married how many years? 5. They talk about the 7-year itch. And the 7-year itch, for those that don't know it, is that I did this whole TED talk about it, but the 7-year itch is, they say that people begin to regret their decisions, any type of decision, even if it's you bought a house, around the 7-year mark, you say, I want a new house. This house is no longer serving me. And it's unfortunate that it shows up in marriage. Have y'all met times in your marriage where y'all felt like, this marriage is no longer serving me, I want out?
No, I never felt that way, man. It's been a blessing. My wife has been the best thing that's happened to me. I came from kind of a, not really dysfunctional family, but a never strong marriage that I've seen growing up. Even through trying times, when we, somehow, during COVID, we had 2 kids. So 2020, one showed up at the door.
Somehow.
He said somehow.
2022.
Sheltered in place.
2022, another one showed up at the door. Where are these kids coming from? So my wife got she went through like a little depression state, you know what I mean? So that was very trying, but not for one instance that I thought about leaving or not being by our side. Luckily, we did CSI. Men's 33 was very helpful.
Break down what CSI stands for.
Oh, couples seriously interested.
Okay, because there's people watching online, so that's cool. Couples seriously interested.
So I had that. So one of the main things I learned was
here at the church, right?
Was Ephesians 5:25. So I was, I got a wristband. I pulled it out. I was like, man, I'm gonna love her through all this. I'm gonna go outside and smoke the cigar and drink a little wine and, well, we're gonna make it work. But she eventually got through it, and not one time. That's been probably the hardest time so far.
Let's unpack that. So, Lauren, you spoke about that when we were in the green room. You said that you faced depression. What brought on the depression?
Getting the shock from the doctor, because I went to the doctor because y'all had told myself that I was about to meet Jesus. And so I went to the doctor telling them, like, hey, I'd like for y'all to start running tests because I'm feeling this way. And they were like, we're going to start with the pregnancy test because of your age. And I told them, I just had a baby, so we don't need to do that. I just want y'all to start doing what I asked. And they made me do that test. And 5 minutes later, that woman came back in and she was like, congratulations. And the look on my face, she was like, or maybe not. Do we need to scream? Do we need to cry? So I called him and I said, hey, I want to talk to you about something when you get home. We might need to make room for another person to move in. And he was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Your grandpa needs to come with us or something? And when he got home, I was like, we're having another baby. And he looked at me and said, how did that happen?
Well, there's a story about the birds and the bees.
Right. So, it was just a lot for me because, we're at home. It's 2020. So I'm at home with, at that time, how old was she? Like 10? Aubrey's 10. She's at home every day. That was a challenge in and of itself because, she hated schools, doing it from the computer. I'm at home every day with her. I have a 6-month-old. It was like we're always here. And now another one is coming. So, it just took me down a whole dark place.
How long were you in this depression?
Let's see. I found that out on September the 2nd, and I took off work. I was in that depression almost up until the baby came. I think It really was like March of 2021, and he came in April, when I finally was like, okay, you know what? The baby is coming whether you like it or not. And you need to get ready for it. And somebody told me along the way, the baby can feel everything that you're feeling, so it's unfair for him to be having those type of feelings. And so it's like, oh, okay, I never thought about that. I was just thinking about me and feeling worthless and selfless. I don't know. So it took up until a month before the baby came to realize that, you know what? He's coming regardless, and you got to make space for him too. And he's been the biggest blessing ever. That's my baby that's here now. But before then, And everything he did, I'm telling you, y'all, everything he did would get on my nerve. Like sometimes it's like you breathing too loud. So when he says,
deep breaths too.
So when he said he had to go outside, I didn't know it gotten that bad. But now that I'm thinking back on it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I was getting on his nerve, but he stuck it out with me, and I'm so glad because,
How did you deal with that, Chris? Like, how did you deal with that? Because it may be some men that need reference on we always hear about the woman being supportive of her man when he's going through bad moments or whatnot, but we really don't hear enough examples about a man covering his wife, covering his woman when she's at her lowest point. So King, I want you to speak to that. How did you cover her in that brokenness?
Well, King, Luckily, you know, so when I married into the family, I have great in-laws. So I think a village is very key. I think my dad stepped up. My in-laws stepped up. Like my mother-in-law, she will come over and help, you know, babysit the kids. And, you know, we have a great relationship. Even my father-in-law. Then two, just got a lot of praying. You know, I definitely started reading the Bible more during those trying times, just to figure out how I can navigate, you know, this situation and kind of leveraging, you know, not being so selfish and trying to understand where she's coming from. Because I think a lot of times you get caught up in your own feelings and why she directing this towards me. So I was like, well, I started figuring out, well, this ain't really about me. So, okay, how can I better facilitate our engagements when she's going through? So I'll pull the kids, I'll take them out to the park or whatever. You know, I mean, just do little small things.
That's good. That's good. So you'll take a lot of pressure off of it.
Right.
I like that, because a lot of times as men, we just got to do better. And I love the fact that you said that you enacted the village. You went and talked to you have a healthy relationship with your in-laws. We hear so much about that there's a dissension between that. So I'm glad that y'all have a healthy relationship even with your in-laws. Let's talk to you real quick, Andrea. So you're one of the leaders over divorce care, right?
Yes, sir.
What made you decide to take your pain and transform it to a purpose?
Well, 4 months after my divorce was finalized, a friend who attends Concord, mentioned the divorce care group and encouraged me to attend. And I attended, and I thought it was an amazing group. It definitely helped. The leader at the time, one of the leaders, Curtis, he was so encouraging and inspiring and supportive. And so throughout that time, even though the group was finished, we just maintained a great friendship and just being supportive of each other. And I really thought that my ministry was going to be in serving marriage. And I was like, Lord, I need to be married so I can be, you know, serving other marriages. And after a while, he was like, sit down, you need to just operate in where you are. And I kept feeling like I needed to serve in other areas because I served before, but through the divorce, I stepped down from leadership. And so I was walking in the foyer one day, and there was Pastor Carter was discussing, you know, signing up for small groups and leading in other ways, and I said, it's time. And I saw Curtis in the foyer. I said, Curtis, I think it's time. And he was like, let's do it. But I also think that it's not fair for me to have experienced what I experienced and not share it with others and let them know that it does get better. There is life after divorce. And there's a beautiful life after divorce. And I wanted to be able to share that with others.
Let me ask y'all, how many of y'all have been divorced? Or a couple of y'all, how many of y'all have been through the divorce care? Anybody here that's been through that? They're gonna be starting back up again. When, next month?
September 17th is our next class, is when it starts.
Please prioritize that. Make sure that you go and sign up, because you may be thinking that you're healed, but you may be bleeding on the next person that you decide to do life with. And while you can go ahead and resolve that stuff, I believe that sometimes God holds back because God cares about his sons. If you're a woman, he cares about his sons, so he doesn't want you taking your toxicity to damage one of his sons and vice versa. So he needs you to go ahead and get healed from whatever you're going through. And men, a lot of men, we don't show up to opportunities for therapy or to even do divorce care. And so I recommend that for you as well. I encourage you to go and just sit in that place, and I'm telling you, it will change your life. I went through a similar program at my church that I was attending at the time called Celebrate Recovery. And I went through that program, and it began to heal me. At first, I was like, I ain't gonna tell nobody my business. I don't know these people. I ain't gonna tell nobody my business. My sin is my sin between me and God. And the Bible says, confess your faults one to another so that you may be what? Healed. And so your healing takes place through that transaction of sharing what's going on with you. And oftentimes, they don't even have to give you advice back. Just the fact that you're releasing that, showing the devil that he no longer has you bound to the very thing that you, just sharing that thing out. Because Paul says, I boast in my weakness. And so one of the things that God's been able to do during the Dear Future Wifey podcast is me being transparent, sharing my brokenness, sharing the things that God allowed me to overcome, and then people are being healed from it, and I'm being healed from it, and I'm becoming a better man for the woman that God has designed for me to marry. So I just want to encourage you to go ahead and do that.
Can I say, even with the course, it's for those who are contemplating divorce. It's for those who
That's even better.
are divorced, and it's for those who, they've been divorced for some years and they just never dealt with it. And I will say we had someone in the class at one point where she was contemplating divorce, and just through our conversations and her attending the courses, her marriage was restored.
That's beautiful.
And we don't just say, no, everybody needs to get divorced. Whatever it is for you and your family, that's what needs to happen. We're here to encourage whatever the outcome God says needs to happen.
Let me ask you, Pastor Carter. A lot of times, I have a lot of people that may troll me on social media and be like, God don't condone divorce. You know, and so can you speak to that, where she says sometimes divorce may be the best option? Can you speak to that, Pastor Carter?
When God designed marriage, he designed it to be permanent. When you get to Genesis chapter 2, when he says the two became one flesh, his original design for marriage is for it to last for an eternity.
Right.
You get to Genesis chapter 3, sin shows up, which means that the brokenness enters those relationships. And so he then begins to create space because of the brokenness of sin for divorce. It's always the tenet to be lifelong. So as much as we can, we got to make every effort that we can to work together, to work through conflict, to try to meet each other in service of the way God designed marriage. But then he opens it up for divorce around really 3 areas: abuse, abandonment, and adultery. But even in those cases, it doesn't say you have to do it, right? He gives room for it in those cases because he knows that we are broken people. And he knows that we are sinners and we are still being redeemed through our sins. So he gives room in those cases. But there are also marriages, even in this room today, that have been through so much, and God has given them a unique ability to be able to go through the hard times and to be redeemed through those hard times. And there are other cases where couples have also gone through those same 3 issues, and they ended up going a separate place. And so I think we have to understand God has a high view of marriage, right? But at the same time, he also understands the brokenness that we all carry, and in some cases it does lead that way.
That's good. That's good. That's so good. As we wrap up, I want to just go around, and I want us to all talk about what is our takeaway from this panel discussion. What's your takeaway? Take a moment, think about it. Shaine, what's your takeaway?
Keeping God at the center of relationships, and then also what Pastor Carter said, finding discipline and saying that it's okay to be young and not have everything in order to, pursue somebody seriously. So that's a big takeaway. Lord,
that was a breakthrough. At first he said, look at that. Lord,
look, we're in the church. Amen. Amen.
Look at he said, all right. Yeah. He said, leave Shaine alone. All right, Jaren.
I think my key takeaway is that you have to keep living. There's going to be so many things that are going to happen in your life, so many things that you're going to have to grow through, and you have to work with your partner. This is a group project to make sure that you are able to see it and get through it. There's no calling what it's going to be, but as long as you keep living and keep being willing to work, you can find success.
Good. Love it. Andrea.
For me, that men are doing the work. And I think it's important that men are doing the work. A lot of times us as women, we do a lot of the work. When I say the work, I mean the inner work, and going to counseling and making sure you have the healing that you need to be whole when you come to someone. And so just the reality that more men are doing the work, and it makes me feel real good to know that.
Good. Summer.
Well, in full transparency, keeping it lit, I did not want to come today. I had a lot of worry about sharing personal experiences about dating. But my takeaway today is the power of testimony, and each of us sharing our journeys in dating and in marriage, because, and that's a huge component of your podcast,
right.
How you're sharing your journey, and I think it's so healing. So me sitting here, not only hearing the stories of the married couples up here, and hearing your story of redemption and how you're using your pain to help restore other couples. Like, all of those things are so powerful, and it just helps me to not run from these opportunities again. When you have the opportunity to share your experience, you never know how God is going to use you.
When I say that's important, and we can all do that exact same thing in our own circle of influence, in our own sphere of influence. The Bible says that people overcome by the word of our testimonies and by the blood of the Lamb. So by you sharing your testimony, people will look at you and be like, I didn't know you went through that. So you used to do what? And you'll give them reference that if God can do it for you, he can do it for them. And so always embrace those moments. Lewis's.
My key takeaway is what Jaren was talking about, just keeping note of the simple things. I think a lot of times my wife and I were really busy between organizations, sorority, fraternity life, the kids, everything in between is that, it's just a blessing to wake up next to her in the morning, see her beautiful face, and just eating dinner, cooking for her, just kind of, settle out.
He said cooking for her.
Oh, yeah, I'm cook. I cook for the family. Yeah. But yeah, just the simple things.
Remember the simple things. Lauren?
Well, I was going to say that too. So I will say that not to dwell on small things, and also to remember that everything happens in due season. And so there will be different seasons in your marriage. There are different seasons in life, and we need to just continue to grow through them together.
Pastor Stephanie.
Yeah, I would say ditto to everything everybody said. I think the seasons of your marriage, like I'm listening to Jaren, he's newly engaged, he's just so in love. Yeah, wait for it. That's just so precious. But I think the key that we can learn from everybody up here is that one is therapy, and just doing the work on yourself. And then making sure that you're not carrying that into the future.
Yeah.
And just living in that moment. Whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're engaged, but just living in that moment and realizing that it's a season.
Yeah, it's a season. Bring us home.
All right. I guess my key takeaway is just really about the value of really community, right?
Yeah.
So watching everyone on this group, right? I've been watching them in different spaces. All of them talked about CSI, our kind of pre-dating class that we offer at the church. I've watched many of them in small groups that you really can't do it alone.
Yes.
Right? I've watched Shaine grow up. I've watched Chris too early. So watching Jaren, I've watched them. So the value of making sure you're helping somebody else to grow through their season, or standing beside someone as they go through their dating season or marriage season. I just think you can't do this alone. You've got to hook up with somebody in the life of the church. You got to join a small group. You got to take somebody to lunch. You got to find a way to walk through this together, because you really can't do it alone, and we really, really need each other. To do singleness well, to do marriage well, we have to have each other's support.
And to be in these streets together.
Stephanie just want to be in these streets, Stephanie. You want all the women to be out in these streets. She said she got to. Listen, thank y'all so much. Did y'all enjoy yourself today? First of all, I'd like to thank the Carters for being visionaries to have something unconventional in a church service. Y'all know this ain't typical for a church service, right? And so it takes pastors that actually have vision and insight and understand that you can get a message of hope and restoration and healing through different means besides just standing up and giving a message or a sermon. And so I thank you so much that you are allowing us to be walking epistles, and so that we can share our own stories. And I appreciate you for finding value in the Dear Future Wifey podcast. How many of y'all saw the episode with the Carters on Dear Future Wifey? If y'all haven't, make sure y'all go check it out, because Stephanie was in raw form. So y'all probably used to it by now. But listen, y'all gotta check that episode. I had an amazing time. Again, make sure y'all go visit the lobby. The caregiver coach, Pat Bailey, is out there in the lobby.
Hold up, everybody, don't leave yet.
Yeah, don't leave yet.
Hold up, we got a couple more things left.
Yeah, we gotta have a benediction and everything, so y'all stay seated. Yeah, we're gonna have a call. Some people may need to give their life to the Lord, and so we want to open up the opportunity for that. So, hey, y'all, thank y'all so much for watching the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Thank you so much.
Amen.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.